Hey beautiful people, welcome back to the channel. You're watching Code Ray, and if you're new, I'm currently an upcoming software engineer at a FAANG company, and on this channel I help you to navigate and succeed in your tech career. So if you're thinking about going to tech, or you're already in tech and thinking about improving your career, make sure to smash that subscribe button and click the like button for more videos. Also, if you are currently starting out in your tech recruitment journey, or you are trying to improve your career, make sure to check out this video on how to create your resume, because in the video I talked about giving out free resume advice, and that's been going so well, so I wanted to extend it to this video. So if you leave a comment in the video, I will be able to get to you and take a look at your resume. So a lot of you have been asking me whether you should go into product management or whether you should choose between product management and software engineering. So a lot of people really enjoy the tech space and they love trying to solve new problems in order to make the world a better place, but they don't necessarily love coding. And if you're thinking about going to product management, make sure to continue watching the video to see if it's right for you. In this video, I will be discussing with an incoming Google APM whether you should go into product management and whether product management is right for you. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, let's welcome Rishi Tripathy. To start off, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so thanks so much for having me on. Ray and I met at Duke. So I just graduated from Duke actually. I studied computer science and computer engineering.
Awesome, thank you for being here. On the topic of whether you or I should go into product management, can you tell us what type of person do you think is right for product management?
Yeah, so this is I had a reckoning with myself probably over my sophomore and then into my junior year, trying to figure out whether PM is right for me. And I think that there's a lot of different ways that you can tackle the question, but some of the things that I would recommend is thinking about how you work on teams, because product management is inherently collaborative and you're trying to enable the rest of your team to do good work.
Right.
And also sort of thinking about this sort of empathy that you're able to have for users and sort of the problems that they're facing, and how can you come up with solutions and then help build those solutions with the help of your team. And yeah, I can get a little bit more into sort of my own journey and sort of how I found PM, if that's interesting.
Right, that would be helpful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, awesome. So I came into Duke actually wanting to study biomedical engineering. I was super interested in healthcare, and I wanted to work on medical devices and all these different things, because I thought that'd be really impactful. So I went and I did an internship in surgical robotics after my freshman year, and it was really interesting. People were really smart and it was awesome, but the thing that I couldn't get over was how long the development cycles were. I was working on something in 2017 and it wasn't going to be released until 2021. And I felt like I needed sort of more fast-paced impact is what I wanted out of my work. So after that experience, I started studying computer science after that, and I learned about software engineering is this thing that a lot of people want to do. So I went next summer, I did a software engineering internship, and it was fine. Technically it was reasonably interesting, but the really, really tough part for me is it was frustrating to me that I didn't have a lot of context on why I was building what I was building. I was on a team that was building some security product, but I really didn't have any context on what types of people are using this product, what problems is this product solving for people, is this helping people, is it hurting people, what the hell am I doing with my time basically, right? So after that experience, and the previous summer, I had sort of isolated two interesting things, right? Where one is I think that I need something that has some pace and that's iterative, and that I'm continually working on and improving, and that I'm seeing sort of some impact out in the world, which is what I got from the first experience. And from the second experience, I need and I sort of crave that context around what I'm building, and I need to know not only what am I building, am I building some software product or whatever, I also need to know why I'm building it and how it's helping people. So I think that those two are really core parts of sort of the things that I find fulfilling in my work. And I think that there are things that led me to PM because it's an inherently collaborative and empathetic role where you're always sort of putting yourself in the shoes of your customers or your users. So I think that is sort of what drew me towards it, but I think that there's a lot of other parts of product management that can sort of draw people in from lots of different backgrounds. Some people are very data-driven, some people are just like thinking about different technological innovations and how new breakthroughs in tech can speak to solving new problems. But I really think that the core things are sort of this deep collaborative empathy and a solutions-oriented mindset in terms of when people are facing problems, how can we fix them, and how do we create something that helps with those problems? Those sort of like the core questions I would ask.
Awesome. Okay, so a lot of software engineers also want to address these like cooperative, like they want to be cooperative and they want to help make the world a better place. So what do you suggest for someone who's thinking about going to software engineering or product management? Like how do they know which one to choose? And like why didn't you go to software engineering yourself?
Yeah. So this is a really, really like age-old question sort of in product is like, should I go do software engineering first or should I not? And I think like one caveat to make is like, you don't have to be a software engineer to become a product manager. Like there's other ways, like you can get it from a marketing background, like a data science background. Like some people go get their MBAs and move into PM, but sort of, I think a lot of the conversation ends up being around software engineering versus PM.
Right.
I think like the core considerations there is like, if you don't have one of the other backgrounds, like the marketing or whatever that I talked about, I think it's really valuable to have some software experience before diving into product. Just because like you will understand what a product development cycle looks like. Like you'll understand what it takes to go from like an idea to like within a business, like getting approval for that idea and then going and building that thing. And you'll understand sort of how do software engineers work together, how do we like work on technical limitations and other challenges. And those are really important skills to have as a PM because you're going to be working with engineers basically like all day. And so one thing that I think is important is that you're, in addition to being empathetic towards like your user, as a PM, it's also incredibly helpful if you can be empathetic towards each of your team members and understand like the software engineers on my team, what problems are they facing, what are their own career goals, what is going to help them succeed, right? And a lot of the time, those incentives are aligned between like the software engineers you work with and also your own goals as a product manager, right? Like everybody's goal is to like go build a great product.
Right.
But where the software engineering is really valuable is like if you can really understand like what are the technical limitations of my team, what things are we able to innovate on, and what things can't we like find a code solution to, quote unquote. Those are sorts of insights that get really strong when you're a product manager with a software engineering background. So I'd suggest like at least some software engineering experience is helpful before diving into product, maybe like even just an internship. But for people who are sort of thinking full-time, a lot of software engineer full-time like folks do end up transitioning into product at some point. But if you're thinking like for my first job, I would sort of bias towards doing product in an organization where you can learn it the right way and within a culture that like has a strong sort of collaborative spirit and will teach you sort of like this is how to work with engineers, this is how we work with designers, et cetera, and like a company that has those sorts of processes and that training and mentorship in place. Because if you're sort of chucked out into the world in like in a place where you don't have a lot of guidance on those things, that's where you sort of it's much more difficult to develop that effective empathy for those sorts of teammates like I talked about earlier. So in summary, I'd say like try to do some software before you get into product. And if you do end up choosing to do product, make sure that you're doing it in an environment where you're able to continue building on that empathy for your technical stakeholders that you work with, like your engineers, your designers, etc.
Okay, awesome. So for those of you who are thinking about going to product management, I guess for Rishi, like, are there any misconceptions about those of you who don't have any product management experience and are thinking about what project management is versus like working in product management in the actual field?
Yeah, so I think product is there are some misconceptions of it. I think one of the bigger ones that I tend to hear a lot is like, oh, you're like the CEO of the product, which I don't think is true. The key distinction I'd say is like, as a product manager, you need to lead a team without authority, right? Like nobody, as a PM, like nobody reports to you. You're nobody's boss. Like the engineers don't report to you, the marketers don't report to you. Like they all have their own bosses. So what you need to do in order to do your job effectively is influence the direction of the team without formal authority. Like a CEO in a company has authority. Like everybody reports to the CEO, but you don't have that as a product manager. And so it's that much more important sort of to be like on your game in terms of understanding sort of what each of your team members needs and wants to do, and sort of understanding what the product is meant to do. I think that's one misconception, is that like you're not sort of this magic person who can like wave wands and make people do things, right? You need to people need to respect you and they need to appreciate your opinions and your insights. And that's why you're going to be a really good PM, not because they have to listen to you. And the other thing I'd say that's a misconception is that the PM is a glamorous role. I don't think it's glamorous at all. So like people are like, oh, you're like figuring out what this product does, and you're like that's like the big thing people talk about. But like the day-to-day of it is actually like a lot of things that might feel more like grunt work. Like basically like you're taking notes in every single meeting, you're distributing those notes to people, you're collecting documents, and you're like reading through like 5-year-old like product documents that like and trying to figure out like what the requirements were there and how they're different now. And like you're doing a lot of grunt work, a lot of things that are tedious but that are very necessary for a product to succeed. And I think sometimes that gets lost in some of the public conversation around product, where people think it's this like awesome role at the intersection of business and tech. And like, yeah, at some level there is some overlap there, but really what you end up doing is you end up being sort of the glue, like this dirty glue that holds your team together and that makes sure that a good product is shipped. And so like you're doing all like the little things, right? Like I talked about. And I think like one thing to keep in mind is that like it's also a thankless role. Like if everything goes right and you ship a great product, congratulations, like you've done your job, right? Like, nobody's gonna pat you on the back for it. Like you did your job, which is why the product is good. And if anything goes wrong through a product's launch or development, like it's your fault as a PM, because like it's your job to like hold the team together. So it's like a little bit thankless in that respect. So I think some of the big misconceptions are like that PM is like this powerful, glamorous role, but in reality, like it's kind of thankless and you do a lot of dirty work. And the reason why I like it, and the reason why I think it's fulfilling is because I'm driven not by sort of like these congratulatory factors, but rather just sort of knowing that like it was my work that ended up creating some impact for some people. And just like the fulfillment really comes from like hearing from your users and hearing how they're using the product and hearing from your teammates. And if like a teammate says like, wow, working with you made it really easy to like ship this product, and like I really enjoyed that. That's something that is like that's as much gratification as you'll get as a PM. And nobody's gonna come to you and be like, wow, like, amazing job, like you did this great thing. It's like sort of the little things that you have to hold on to in terms of what fulfills and continues to drive you forward.
Awesome. Okay, so what are a few questions that I can ask myself if I'm thinking about going into PM?
Yeah. So I think when thinking about like should I PM, like I like wrote a handbook a couple years ago, like when I was going through the recruiting process, and there's like a couple questions or like things to look for that I had. And so like some of those are like, if you really enjoy communicating your ideas to lots of people, whether it's through writing, through talking, through meetings, etc. As a PM, you are like a communicator. If you're deeply empathetic and you enjoy sort of putting yourself in somebody else's shoes and thinking about like what problems is this person facing, how can we fix those problems, because you need to do that for both your users and your teammates. If you enjoy using data to tell stories, so there's an art and a science to product where like you're going to be collecting data and like trying to figure out like what do the numbers say is the best thing to do, and then you also there's a layer of context on top of that where it's like what stories can we tell with this product, and how do those stories inspire people to build and enjoy using the product that I'm working on. I think being collaborative, like am I a collaborative person, is something to ask. Like I've mentioned, if you are a person who thinks like, how can I make this better, when you see things that are broken in the real world, I think that's a sign that like you might have sort of that solutions-oriented mindset. For me, I sort of like, I remember that the big way that I answered that is like my family and I used to watch a lot of Shark Tank, like after dinner, just like when I was in high school. And I would always be like, oh my God, like, well, A, like, why didn't I think of this? Like, B, like, how could this be like even better? And I think those are really insightful, interesting questions to ask. And questions that you'll have to answer if you end up being a product manager. So if you find yourself naturally asking those questions, that's a good signal. If you sometimes, and I think the last sort of set of things that you might ask yourself about is like, you're curious like how the business of technology works, where it's like, oh, like this product is here, but like how does it make money, and like why did somebody build this? Like why did a business take the time to like build this thing that people use, right? Sometimes it's very obvious. Sometimes you're paying for a product, maybe like Spotify Premium, right? And like you're paying it $5 a month, and like you're getting service, and it makes a lot of sense. But in other situations, it might not be as clear, right? Like if you're thinking like, oh, why is Gmail free? How does it make money? And like, if you find yourself asking those questions and exploring them, like maybe you'll realize and you'll do a little research and you'll figure out like Gmail is free for consumers so that when people go to work for a company or when people start companies, they're accustomed to the Gmail experience and they and then they buy G Suite for their team, right? And then that's a paid product, and sort of the business side, like the business to business model is where a lot of the money flows in Gmail. But that's why they make it free for consumers, right? So if you find yourself being inquisitive and curious about sort of the business side of tech, I'd say like that's another question that you can ask that's like valuable, right? So I think like, again, to wrap that portion of the conversation up, like there's one segment that's around like communication and empathy. There's another around like storytelling and solutions-oriented mindsets in terms of like being solutions-oriented when you're faced with problems. And the last is sort of being curious about like how do we make things commercially viable? Why are these portions of tech commercially viable? So I think like those are broadly some of the interesting questions that I found myself asking when I was trying to figure all this out. That sort of looking back, sort of paint this paper trail of like things that I noticed about myself that made me think that this is a good fit for this stage of my life.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Rishi, for being here today and talking to us about product management. He actually also made a handbook about whether product management is right for you, and I'll link that in the description below. And thank you so much for watching, guys. If you guys have any questions about whether you want to go into PM or anything about PM, feel free to message me. I'm always happy to talk with you about it. And so thank you today for watching the video. Thank you, Rishi.
Thanks so much, Ryan. Take care.